What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So we're less than 2 weeks now as we enter November from next generation systems, the PS5 and the Xbox Series systems from coming out. It's exciting stuff when we get this close to next generation. But one of the things we were talking about leading up to the PS5 launch was being able to change out those panels, and we had the company PlayStation that was going to provide those panels to us as a lot of people went and pre-ordered. There's one problem. Despite them changing their name, Sony still does not want them to sell these shells, and it looks like those orders are now being canceled all over the place. We're going to talk about what happened there exactly. Also, for some reason, TCL decided to tweet out online about the Nintendo Switch revision that is not announced or anything, and we'll talk about if that actually means anything there. Oh, and it looks like EA is seeing some actual consequences for FIFA Ultimate Team and those loot boxes that they love so much. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure that like button helps out a ton. And if you're brand new here, hit that red subscribe button down below. We're gonna start with Ubisoft and the PlayStation 5 today. Now we know the PS5 is backwards compatible with a lot of PS4 games. The list that they released of games that it's not compatible with, it's very, very small, other than the ones there. I think PT, which is basically a demo that most people don't have access to anyway. But Ubisoft released something that was a little strange. It was a blog post that talked about some of their games that wouldn't be backwards compatible with the PlayStation 5. Here's the list here, and what's weird is, I mean, Assassin's Creed is the biggest one. Assassin's Creed Syndicate right at the top, and then you also have Chronicles Trilogy Pack, of course, Chronicles India, China, Russia, all of that. Then Risk, Star Trek Bridge Crew, which would have to do with PlayStation VR, so who knows with that one, that could be why. And then Werewolves Within and Space Junkies. The only thing here is, not too long after that post went up, it came back down, and they gave this quote to Komatsu as to why. "We have pulled the Ubisoft Connect article and forum post regarding backwards compatibility for the time being, as there may be inaccuracies involving the Ubisoft titles that will be playable on PS5. So I have no idea why Assassin's Creed Syndicate wouldn't work, but the other ones would. It's a very strange thing to go up and for these to just be out there. But I mean, we had a situation with Ubisoft before where they talked about PS3, PS2, and PS1 backwards compatibility, and that was all over the place. So I really do think this might have just been a mistake. And honestly, maybe a few of these just are backwards compatible and they accidentally made the list. I have to assume Assassin's Creed Syndicate is one of them, because some of the other ones people might not care as much about. It's very weird that an Assassin's Creed game would even be on that list. Also, if you were one of the few people who got a chance to go out and get a DualSense controller at the store, so, you know, you can look at it as you wait for the PS5 to actually arrive at your house, you might be looking for things to do with it. Maybe you hooked it up to your computer to check it out, or you're synced up to your cell phone. Apparently, you can also sync it up to your Nintendo Switch. Here's a video that was posted on Twitter by Broken Games HDR, showcasing navigation through the Switch and even going into games with that DualSense controller. You might be wondering, how is this possible? Well, I did a video a while back showcasing that 8BitDo adapter. It's a little USB dongle that plugs in and then adds Bluetooth functionality for syncing to controllers that might not be compatible with the Switch out of the box. It just remaps, reprograms, and then sends the correct signals to the Switch, so it kind of recognizes the controller. I say kinda because it's still a bit spotty at times, but it does look like the DualSense, because it can sync up through Bluetooth, will work. So if you're looking for something to do, you can, I guess, fire up the Switch. You could play some Zelda with it if you want, some Mario Odyssey, some Pikmin 3. That just came out. So kind of an interesting thing to see there. Hook up the DualSense right to the Switch. You can use it there before the PS5 comes out. Also, we had a rundown from Sony of some of the accessibility features that will be part of the PlayStation 5, mostly options, so you can kind of shape the experience as you would like to with the PS5. For example, you can remap the buttons. They also have screen to text to speech, all of these different things you can do, which also includes being able to turn off those adaptive triggers from the menu. So if you don't want to use that at all, whether it's the tension that's in the triggers, you don't feel like having that while you're playing the game, you can just outright turn it off. I'm wondering how that will affect games if they are set up to be like, well, there was supposed to be a lock there because the gun jammed, but we'll just make the jam, or the gun jam in-game, just without the use of that accessibility feature, I guess, that's been turned off. It's an interesting thing to think about that, but remember, I did show that inside of that mechanism, as long as that motor doesn't activate and move that lever up, it'll just stay out of the way and it'll just be like a regular controller basically going forward. So it seems like Sony at least had in mind, oh, if the adaptive trigger portion breaks, it's still a functioning controller, you just won't get all of those features, or if the person just wants to turn it off outright. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. We're starting right away with the PlayStation shells. Now, I talked about these in a video twice now, once on the second channel, once on the main channel here, after they had to rebrand to customize my plates. It's been all over the place. It's a cool idea. I mean, a lot of us look at the PS5 and we just have all these special editions running through our head, but for the most part, just matte black, a lot of us would be pretty happy with that. Or like a red or blue or any of the basic colors other than just the one, like the one white and black system. So here's hoping Sony gets on that and releases those plates, because Yongye did a video showcasing his unboxing and it seemed like they just popped off pretty easily. So I have to imagine that's coming, but it looks like any of those orders that were placed are being canceled. Mine was also canceled. I had put an order in for the matte black shell, the two of them. So I thought it would have been pretty cool to kind of put those on the PS5 as soon as I got it even, and kind of checked it out and see how the plastic would look. But we have some quotes here. Video Games Chronicle did get them, and that's what they had to say. Before we launched, we did our due diligence, and we're of the opinion that because Sony only had pending patents on the faceplates, there would be no problem. But after only a day of our website being live, Sony's lawyers asked us to change our name, at the time PlayStation 5, due to trademark infringements. We thought this switch would be enough to keep everyone happy, and honestly, we're hoping so since we were already underway with our product development. But then Sony's lawyers told us it was their opinion Sony's intellectual property extended to the faceplates, and that if we continued to sell and distribute them in any country, we would end up in court. This all came to light yesterday, and we are now canceling and refunding all faceplate orders worldwide. We are extremely disappointed about this, but we have no other option. Yeah, so that's why you see all of these patents all over the place that we see it, and they may never be used, but you never know. You might need it for a situation like this. If you are Sony or even Nintendo or Microsoft, most likely there will be faceplates of some kind, these shells, and they probably have to be licensed through Sony because they hold the patent, it's their system, all of these things, and they wanted to basically take care of this very quickly before the PlayStation 5 came out. It is a shame because I thought it would have been cool to get some of these plates in. Like I said, you could customize it day one, and it looks like they were moving quick. But they did refund my money and cancel the order right away after this news broke. So they're at least going around to make sure that's all taken care of. It's just a shame to see this. And the real problem would be is if Sony never really takes advantage of releasing special edition side panels for the PS5, because I still think there's a possibility they won't. Like, this could be just so it's easier in manufacturing for them to change the sides out and, oh, here comes Spider-Man 2, let's make it so it's red and with the white Spider-Man logo on the side or something, and all we do is change out those panels. That's it. Everything else is the same. That's my one concern, because I would hope that they would then just sell those pieces of plastic to people for way too much money, and that would work for them. But we'll see from there. It's a shame to see this, but hopefully Sony allows companies to do these going forward as long as they take the right steps, which includes licensing through Sony. So we'll see if anything else comes from Customize My Plates or PlayStation 5 in the future. Maybe they can work with Sony, we'll see. Next up, let's talk about the Nintendo Switch Pro, because it was obviously confirmed the other day. Let's go to the tweet here. This is from TCL USA, saying, excited to see mini LEDs, which power our award-winning 6 and 8 series TVs, make their way into the gaming world. Improved contrast and luminance will soon be in the palm of your hands. And it looks like they quote tweeted the TechRadar.com article that says Nintendo Switch Pro could sport a mini LED display. Here's why that matters. So it looks like that article was talking about the what the Economic Daily News, their report about it. There is no actual confirmation there from TCL from what I can see. Here's what happened with this, because this got blasted to me all over Twitter. I was like, why would they tweet that? They're not allowed to do that. Look, if they were really not allowed to do it and they were under NDA, there was contracts, this tweet would have been up for all of 5 seconds before the social media manager got yelled at and probably lost rights to being the social media. They probably like changed their password on him or something. So what probably happened here was the brand manager, the social media manager, probably saw this article and realized, because they mentioned TCL in it. So what do? You find a trending topic, you then post about how cool your award-winning Series 6 and 8 sets, your TV sets, all of this, you put it out there, you put it next to the Switch, you talk about the Switch Pro, and boom, you'll have people liking, retweeting, quote tweeting it, and you just kind of move TCL around that way. It really is, it's a marketing tactic that works. It's weird because it kind of muddies up the picture here, no pun intended, because you have TCL, who is actually a company who's trying to produce TVs and all of this and working to produce panels, kind of saying, hey, yeah, we use mini LEDs too, just like that Switch Pro. And everyone's wondering if they're in on it. They're not. So this isn't really much of anything, to be honest. It just spread like crazy online because everyone was confused. And to be honest, unless it's Nintendo or Nintendo that's tweeting about it, I wouldn't be too concerned about it. Also, once again, I don't think the Switch revision will be using mini LED. I think that's going to be something that is 2, maybe even 3 years into the future because it's just too expensive now and we still need Apple even to adopt the technology. Do you really think Nintendo's gonna jump in front of Apple for mini LED when, to be honest, Apple will get other companies in to produce mini LED displays for phones and, well, form factors that would then also work for the next Switch and drive down the cost overall of manufacturing and parts and all of this. There'd be more companies involved. Again, doesn't make a lot of sense for next year. 2 or 3 years from now, though, we'll see. Next up, let's talk about that Oculus Quest 2. It's an interesting device. I've thought about picking it up a few times, but there's one thing that still bothers me, and I'm sure many of you. It's the whole Facebook integration. Like, no one really wants it in their Quest 2. Like, at all that I've seen, everyone is really frustrated by it. It annoys them, and for some people, turns them off of what could be a really cool purchase. I mean, the idea of Oculus Quest 2 being a VR headset that has no wires or any of that, it's just one piece, you put it on and you go, is pretty cool. That's what we want VR to eventually be. We just don't want to see that Facebook login screen. And there's also talks that if you delete your Facebook account, you lose all of your purchases with it. It's really frustrating to see a device like this being held back so much by just a basic login. So what happens? Well, what do you think's going to happen online? People try to figure out how to bypass that, and it looks like they have. Let's go over here to the HackerOne website, and you can see this is the posting right on the front page. A researcher from the XR community has gained root access to Oculus Quest 2 and is able to bypass Facebook login. XRS's own researchers have validated this jailbreak and are currently working to gather assurances to protect the individuals who discovered these methods of jailbreak. We have also learned there are other researchers out there who have gained similar access and are unsure how to proceed without clear policies around the right to repair. If you're one of those researchers, we urge you to contact us and share the details in a secure manner. So it does look like, as we would expect, people online figured out how to bypass the Facebook login because no one wants it. So obviously people are going to figure out how, and it is kind of funny to see that it happened this quickly because people, of course, start poking around the overall system itself. They figure out root access, and then you can kind of do what you want with the device. And I mean, let's be honest, a lot of people would want to do that to their Quest 2 immediately. It would come out of the box and they say, okay, how do we gain root access? How do we get this Facebook login off of here? Because if it becomes known, Facebook will immediately try to patch it. Like, that's just what's going to happen. So you'd want to get one now because most likely they would update to fix it and you'd have to leave it on an older firmware. But Facebook had to understand this because when they announced that, the backlash was crazy. So obviously people were going to get them and then rush to just remove that Facebook login. It's just, it's so frustrating to see this device with a Facebook login when it has so much potential without it. Also, it's worth pointing out that they do mention right of repair. That means that they are trying to figure out if whatever it is they've discovered here could have some legal pushback from Facebook. And trust me, Facebook, they're not concerned about attempting that. They will, if they can do it and they can shut this down through the legal process, and since this would be a way to bypass something that they are trying to push right now with this big Facebook ecosystem that extends to the Oculus lineup, they can't have something that's easy to use to bypass that completely. So yes, the one concern here is that if identities of people who have figured this out are revealed and the process gets out there, Facebook can determine, all right, this is how much this damaged us financially. We are now going to drag you through the court system. Even if they don't have a case necessarily, it would still be very, very costly overall to defend yourself. So that's seemingly what it sounds like they're trying to do here when they bring that up. We'll see what happens with this because it seems like they're also working to protect them a bit. These people who have figured it out and other researchers, it seems like there are quite a few of them who have figured it out. So it's now been validated, and I'm just curious what Facebook will do now with this information that's at least out there, that their whole Facebook login has been just bypassed completely, because that's not good for them. They want that there. We'll see what happens, but it's certainly interesting time for Oculus Quest 2 owners and maybe even potential owners who don't want to have to log into their Facebook account. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about EA, FIFA, and loot boxes. FIFA Ultimate Team makes EA a ton of money. These loot boxes or microtransactions in general, $800 million a year. That's a lot of money to make from what is boiled down basically to gambling. In fact, a lot of regions are starting to see it as that, and EA has been fighting in different courts all over the world for years now. In fact, in just the Netherlands, they've been fighting for 2 years now. Last year they were ruled against, but they continued to fight it for over a year. Now, though, it looks like their time has run up as a ruling in court was made last week saying that they're gonna have to start paying some serious fines if they don't fix it, is what they had to say. The Netherlands Gambling Authority, or the KSA, believes it is crucial to shield vulnerable groups such as minors from exposure to gambling. For that reason, the KSA supports a strict separation between gaming and gambling. Gamers are often young and therefore particularly susceptible to developing an addiction. As such, gambling elements have no place in games. And what's going to happen here is it looks like they are now able to proceed in fining the publisher, the EA, 10 million euros for violating the country's Betting and Gaming Act. And at this point, EA is given a few weeks now to appeal, but they've been fighting this for so long now. I'm curious what EA will do. Is it worth paying that fine and keeping it in? Because I guess they'll just keep fining them as long as they leave these loot boxes in the game. And EA is really gonna have to take a step back here and look at this, because we've been seeing this coming for a while, especially, remember when Battlefront 2, that was crazy. That's when the governments really started jumping in and looking at this and saying, well, hold on, they don't have to do anything other than just basically press a button, which is like spinning a slot machine, essentially. It's a random game of chance, you put money in, and then you get objects back, and it doesn't matter your age or any of this. Is that right? Well, according to EA, it's still a skill-based game. That's what and the reason for that is because they've attached FIFA Ultimate Team and the loot boxes to an actual game, to FIFA, to soccer, football. But according to several of the courts and different places of the world that are fighting against this, you can just do FIFA Ultimate Team without actually playing the game itself. And yeah, that's a good point. They don't even talk about real world money or real world items of actual money that you would gain or lose. They just talk about the fact that you can just walk in and do it with your credit card and not have to play the actual game that it's attached to. We'll see what EA does here. I have a feeling they'll appeal it and continue on, but eventually their time will run up and they're gonna have to pay apparently it's 10 million euros, and I think that's just the beginning. Also, real quick, I want to read you one line here. One of EA's defenses against loot boxes. Check this out. EA also argued that the KSA's decision forbidding FIFA Ultimate Team packs in their prior form violated EA rights to property and freedom of expression. That's right, freedom of expression. That's some dramatic stuff when you're talking about games of chance and loot boxes. And we'll finish up with a comment of the day, as you're seeing here. It says, what if the Switch Pro isn't a traditional hardware upgrade, but instead a 5G-enabled portable? This could solve the coverage issues with streaming. A monthly fee could be attached to existing Nintendo Switch Online accounts. Players who don't want the service can just ignore it. So I've thought about the next big thing for Nintendo going forward is to eventually be able to connect Switches constantly to cell towers, but there are a lot of things that come into play. Different parts of the world, of course. They seem to really be into like not having region locks at all on their system now, and then you have to figure out, okay, how do you do this with a Switch? Do you just sell it unlocked completely? Or do you have some sort of contract with different providers in different areas? Remember what happened when Sony showed up on stage with the Vita and said, we're with AT&T, and everyone booed. So I think if they want to do that, it's a good idea to have as an option. And what you do is you just sell the Switch as normal, but it's an unlocked system that has a slot for a SIM card, and that's it. It has enough bands and all that for different parts of the world. That's all you do. And I like the idea, though, of the Switch having that ability, but as we're hearing things with Starlink and other ways to cover the world in basically Wi-Fi, will they have it out in time to where it even is needed? I like the idea, though, of at least 4G LTE being a part of it, because that would work for all kinds of things you can do online with the Switch then. And ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit the like button, it really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today, whether it's TCL absolutely confirming the Nintendo Switch Pro is real. What do you think about that tweet? Did it surprise you that it just popped up on the timeline? Did you have to like think about it for a minute, or are you like, oh, it's just TCL trying to advertise a bit with the whole Switch hype and the possibility of a revision going on? Also, what about the PlayStation 5? Are you disappointed that we won't have custom shells at launch for the PS5? And are you hoping that Sony really does have some sort of plan going forward to sell us different customized shells? Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.